John and Mary Westmore had poured their lives into building their retail store, Dazzles, which began as a small shop selling clothes and shoes. Over the years, their business grew, thanks in part to the arrival of their daughter, Marilyn, who joined them after college. Marilyn was a visionary who pushed her parents to expand their inventory to include cosmetics, jewelry, lingerie, bags, and other accessories. Her innovative ideas helped transform Dazzles from a simple retail store to a comprehensive lifestyle brand. Marilyn's journey was not without challenges. She became a single mother to her daughter, Diana, and with the support of her parents, she raised Diana, instilling in her a passion for business and a dedication to the family legacy. Before Diana went off to college, Dazzles had expanded to 3 stores around the state. Diana, unlike most young people her age, took a keen interest in the family business. She often spent her holidays working in the stores, shadowing her mother, while other kids were out having fun. This experience helped cultivate her natural talent for business and attention to detail. Diana pursued a degree in business administration, auditing, and IT, sharpening her analytical skills and business acumen. While she was away, her mother and grandparents expanded Dazzles to 9 stores across the country, and upon Diana's graduation, her grandparents retired, passing the torch to Marilyn as CEO, with Diana stepping into the role of Chief Operating Officer. Diana eagerly took on her new responsibilities, immersing herself in the daily operations and evaluating store performances. As she went over reports, one store caught her eye. It was underperforming significantly, with repeated customer complaints and low customer satisfaction scores. She noted a troubling trend in the store's performance reports, with the manager, Mrs. Paula Stokes, repeatedly blaming the staff for poor sales and accusing them of theft. Skeptical of Mrs. Stokes' assessment, Diana approached her mother with her findings. Mom, I don't believe it's just the staff. If people are being fired for stealing, why would the remaining employees continue the theft? Something doesn't add up. Marilyn, who trusted her daughter's instincts, agreed. Together, they devised a plan to uncover the truth. Marilyn suggested that Diana go undercover to get an inside perspective on what was really happening in the store. A memo was sent to Mrs. Stokes introducing a new customer experience consultant, Betty Smith, who would be conducting customer surveys and gathering staff feedback to improve the store's operations. Armed with her disguise, Diana, now Betty Smith, entered the store and met Mrs. Stokes, who appeared enthusiastic about the survey, but was dismissive of her inquiries about the staff's morale. As Diana went about her work, interviewing customers and talking to staff, she noticed a certain reluctance when the employees were asked about Mrs. Stokes. Some whispered that they didn't trust her, while others simply avoided the topic altogether. Diana knew she had to dig deeper. While Mrs. Stokes took her lunch break, Diana seized the opportunity to install mini cameras in the jewelry and cosmetic sections to monitor any suspicious activity. The next morning, Diana reviewed the security footage from the previous night. She discovered that during the closing hours, there was a 10-minute gap in the recordings. Someone had deliberately turned off the cameras. Suspicious, she reviewed the footage from her mini cameras and found what she was looking for. Mrs. Stokes herself was caught on camera, taking items from the jewelry and cosmetic sections and stashing them in her purse. Over the next few days, Diana observed Mrs. Stokes on 2 more occasions, taking jewelry and high-end perfumes after hours. The evidence was irrefutable. Returning to the main office, Diana presented her findings to Marilyn. Marilyn listened, her expression a mix of anger and disappointment. They decided it was time to confront Mrs. Stokes and bring her actions to justice. Marilyn arranged a meeting with Mrs. Stokes, requesting her presence at the main office to discuss new ways to move the store forward. Marilyn also contacted the police, who agreed to be on standby. Mrs. Stokes arrived at the office, eager and confident, unaware of what awaited her. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Marilyn's tone grew serious. With all the missing jewelry and perfume, how can you be sure that it was the staff stealing them? What measures have you taken to prevent this from happening? Marilyn asked, watching Mrs. Stokes carefully. Mrs. Stokes hesitated, stammering. Well, they were responsible for handling the merchandise. I assume they were to blame. Marilyn replied firmly, are you not responsible for managing the store? You haven't addressed the real issue, and we have reason to believe you've been less than transparent. Just then, Diana entered the room. Mrs. Stokes' face paled as she recognized Betty Smith as Diana Conway, the COO of Dazzles. Diana looked directly at Mrs. Stokes and said, I discovered the truth. It wasn't the staff stealing, but you. She opened her laptop and played the footage, showing Mrs. Stokes taking the merchandise. Mrs. Stokes slumped in her chair, visibly shaken. Marilyn picked up her phone and signaled for the officers. Within moments, two police officers entered the room. One officer, a woman, stepped forward and addressed Mrs. Stokes. Mrs. Paula Stokes, you are under arrest for theft. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. As the officers escorted Mrs. Stokes away, she began to cry, muttering, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. After Mrs. Stokes was taken away, Marilyn turned to Diana. We have a lot of work ahead of us, she said. The first thing we need to do is reach out to the staff members who were wrongly dismissed. Diana nodded, already dialing the supervisor's number to inform him that he was now the acting manager. Together, they compiled a list of employees who had been fired under Mrs. Stokes' management. They arranged meetings with each of them, offering apologies and, where possible, re-employment opportunities. With the necessary changes in place, Diana and Marilyn devoted their efforts to revitalizing the troubled store. They installed upgraded security systems and implemented new policies to ensure that employees felt supported and valued. The store's atmosphere began to improve, and sales steadily increased as customer trust was restored. Diana's undercover work became a legendary story within Dazzles, a reminder of the Westmore family's commitment to integrity. Her dedication to her family's legacy had not only exposed corruption, but also strengthened the bond between the staff and the company. A year later, the store Diana had saved became one of the top performing locations within the Dazzles chain. Marilyn and Diana celebrated the milestone, reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. I'm so proud of you, Diana, Marilyn said, beaming. You've shown everyone what it means to lead with courage and integrity. Diana smiled, grateful for her family's legacy and eager to continue building on it. Together, mother and daughter raised a toast to their journey and the bright future ahead of Dazzles. In the end, the Westmore family's residents had transformed their challenges into opportunities, proving that honesty and dedication could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. And as Dazzles continued to grow, Diana knew she was ready to carry the torch and guide the business to even greater heights. Hey, this is Guiding Light Inspirational Stories. Thank you for watching. You are awesome.